Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, bro, you got to get the steps in.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the Push the Needle podcast. Today is another great episode. I have my guest here, Kade Harvey.
What up?
Lifelong friend over here. He was my president when I was VP of my fraternity, and he's also a huge inspiration for this podcast. Him and his journey has allowed me to want to go out and do my own thing, and so I'm glad I'm able to finally have you on the show, Kade. How are you doing?
Good, brother. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, man. Well, let's go ahead and get into it. One reason I really wanted you on this show is because your dream is like probably one of the most ambitious ones I've ever heard. I think that, and when I see you do work and I see you do everything, you can kind of tell that every step you do is very calculated towards that dream. Like, you never really bitch and moan about any work you do because you know it's just baby steps going towards that. Would you mind telling everybody your dream? I think that it'll turn some heads.
I mean, growing up, my dream has always been to make movies. That's always been the dream. Ever since I was a kid, I actually found out recently the reason or the way it started, my like filmmaking journey, what happened. On a vacation when I was probably 8 years old, I think. We used to go on vacation with my cousins. And she had a little camera and she made like a fun like vacation movie. I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like the whole family gathered around the table. They watched this movie together and it was, funny, laughing at all of our memories and seeing the vacation from the kids' eyes, right? As the parents probably enjoyed it because it's kind of funny watching the kids film it, like what they decided to put in the video is funny.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of my whole thing of like, okay, I want to keep doing this. So I kept making, little short movies, travel vacation videos. I do like short films with an iPad. That was my camera for a long time, was just like my family's iPad. And so I've always wanted to make movies. And then now that I've gotten into a job and, got this opportunity to take advantage of being around successful people, being around people that have built $1 million businesses, being around people that have built, and chased their dreams and made it all reality, it's kind of opened my eyes to now that I know that if you dream gigantic, if you dream huge, then if you fall short, you're still pretty up there.
Yeah.
If you shoot for the moon and you fall short, you're still in space.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you're right with the stars, baby.
So my dream is to create a film industry in Austin, Texas, because I don't want to be around the Hollywood influence, like the Hollywood lifestyle. Yeah, I feel like it's gotten very corrupt, and there's not a lot of focus on personal freedom.
Yeah.
Everybody that's in Hollywood has to conform to what everybody else is doing. You hear interviews with like Cat Williams, and he's talking about how they make you do these things where you're not gonna get a job unless you do this. You hear stuff with like P. Diddy, where he's making dudes like suck their dicks and like take a picture of them. Like you hear all these rumors
Weird
about that kind of shit.
Yeah,
Weird as fuck.
Weird,
and I'm like, bro,
there.
it's just all blackmail. It's all just kind of disgusting culture, and it's not who I want to be as a man. I want to be a good force in the world. I don't want to, lie to everybody's face and like have to hide what I've been doing behind the scenes and be a part of these weird parties and all this kind of shit. I just don't want to do that. And I know there's a lot of people that also work in the film industry that would really rather not do that.
Yeah.
But that's the only way they can be successful. So maybe they don't have strong values in their life. They don't have like a good example of somebody in their life. So they just fall prey to being like, okay, I'll just do this because, it's what you have to do.
Yeah.
I don't want that to be a reality. I'd rather change it to where whenever, I built this film industry in Austin, it's primarily focused on just, do you make good movies?
Yeah.
If you are super liberal, I don't give a shit. If you make a good movie, I'm going to fund your movie. If you are super conservative, I don't give a shit. If you make a good movie, I'm going to fund the movie.
Yeah.
And whatever you want to do in your personal life is your life. I don't really care either way, right? So my dream is to build a film industry in Austin and make that the new standard in, movie making.
Yeah, and I one of the reasons why I really look at your dream as something, because I use it for inspiration all the time whenever I need like moments of discipline or anything like that. I look at something that's so big like that, in the way that I see it, though, it's a reality. It's a reality for me because, I see the work that you do. I see how dedicated you are to this. And, it just makes it to where it's like, okay, it makes the little stuff and the, long hours trying to figure things out where I normally be frustrated. Like, okay, but once I get it done and I can produce it a lot more, like, it'll be over with.
The biggest thing that I heard, I think it's from Alex Ramosi. You know who he is?
Yeah.
He's talked about a few times, and this is what's in my head whenever it gets hard. And you're like, dude, fuck, like I'm tired. I don't want to do this. Like, I'd rather just lay down and watch some TV tonight. Fuck, but I got to get these reels done. I got to get this episode out. I got to do whatever the case. This is whenever most people quit. Most people quit at this part. now that it's getting hard and you're gonna have to push yourself a little bit, that's where most people quit.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get over that hump, you know, okay, I'm winning. I'm ahead of most people in life. If I can just get myself to not quit in this moment and finish out the project, I'm ahead of most people.
Yeah.
Because I've been in the part whenever I just quit early and I'm like, that's all right. I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's all right. I'll do it next week. And today, sometimes I'll push stuff off. You know, I'm not perfect. I'm not like this fucking just David Goggins fucking, I can just get everything done, right? I still slack. You know, there's times where like this week actually, I pushed off making reels a few times because I had a long day at my normal job, and I just kind of pushed it off. I was tired. I'm like, I don't really have the headspace for it. I'm going to push it off. Could I have pushed through and done it? Yes, probably. Should I have? Yes, probably. But, you know, I got it done either way. But still, it's those times when it gets really hard to just recognize the fact that this is where most people quit. And if you have that in your head, you can generally push through it because it's that competition. You know, us as just dudes have that competition inside
that
of
drive.
us.
Well, let me ask you this, and let me open that up. So whenever you are going through those, you know, those parts where it's through the motions and you're pushing it to the side, a lot of people I know, including myself, like take it out on themselves for not, you know, just doing it then when they thought about it. You know, despite everything, like you could have had a long day, you know, where you've pumped out, you know, crazy amounts of content, done a crazy amount of things on your checklist, but once it gets towards that end and you have that one little thing and you just push it off, I kind of take it out on myself a little bit, like, oh, I should be doing this and I'm not, and this and that. So how do you kind of navigate that headspace where, you know, it's something you know you should be doing, you know you probably could do it then, but you push it off, you know? Is there anything that kind of conflicts with you on that?
Most of the time, it's like it's time because something that may be a flaw. I'm not too sure, you know, figuring this out, but I do value my sleep and how much sleep I get. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I go to bed late and wake up early just because I have to. But most of the time, if I don't get enough sleep, I find my days to be not as productive the next day. Mm-hmm. So if I don't get quality sleep that night, like if I don't get at least 7 hours or whatever it is, the next day usually isn't that great. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I can push through it and it's okay, but generally it's not. So if I've worked hard and I've got after it, and maybe I have a few things left on my to-do list, if it's getting to be like 11 o'clock at night, it's like, okay, I can put it down. There's always going to be work to do. It's time to stop it and I can go to bed tonight. But you also have to be honest with yourself about, did I actually work hard today?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you'll sit there for 4 hours and you really did 2 hours work.
Yeah.
Because there's times
a lot of time,
you waste a lot of time
on your phone and everything, scrolling. That was me the other day. I was doing some social media work and I was doing it and I started at like 1 just on my phone and everything, and it was like I had an hour before, like maybe it was like an interview or something like that, and I was just like, okay, no phone for an hour, let's get this done. And I got it done in like 45 minutes. I'm like,
right.
Bro, like what? I just wasted 3 hours of my time.
Yes, a big revelation for me about that is I was editing some reels, and it usually would take me, like I would get home from work, I'd probably start around 6 to get them edited, and I'd finish by like 10:30. Mm-hmm. But, you know, if I'm being honest with myself and looking at what I was doing, I would get distracted. I'd look at my phone, I'd play a video, I'd pause, I'd get up to go to the bathroom, I'd like, let me get a snack, let me get a drink, let me get this, right? Taking a lot of breaks, procrastinating on what I need to actually do. And there was one time, I think I was late on time or something, and so I sat down and I literally did not check my phone. Actually, you know what I did? I went outside and I prayed and I asked, like, can I please, like, will you help me focus today? Like, I need to get this stuff done. Please help me with this distraction. You know, I find myself tending to pick up my phone and stuff, so can you please help me with this distraction? And when you do that, when you pray out loud and you ask for, you know, help with something within yourself, when you pick up your phone, you're like, motherfucker, are you really going to disrespect what you just asked for?
Conviction,
you pick up your phone and you're thinking to yourself, I just asked for this. Like, I'm literally breaking what I just asked for. Like, I'm causing what I asked for to not happen. So that day, you know, I would reach for my phone. I'm like, no, motherfucker, like, let's go, keep working. And I literally did my shit in like 2 hours. Yeah. Like, fastest I've ever done it. I'm like, holy shit, I can do these reels in 2 hours if I just sit down and focus.
Game changer.
Yeah, I did my task, and now I have free time in the day. Holy shit, why don't I just do this from now on? So it's those kind of things that you got to just be honest with yourself and make sure that you're, you know, actually working productively.
Do you find yourself turning to God and like a lot of moments like that where it's even just like, because I feel like that's something so small but something so big to be able to say like, okay, like I need your help, Lord, to come and help me take this distraction so I can, help complete work that you want me to do.
It's been a new thing, really, because I've always believed in God, but I haven't prayed for most of my life, really. Like when I was a kid, I did, but in my adult life, not really.
Mm-hmm.
But hearing like Jordan Peterson talk about it, and hearing a lot of people that I look up to talk about it, and me kind of figuring out what it is for myself, I've always been interested in it. Like, what is the meaning of life? What does God really mean? What is, all these spiritual things. It's always been very interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been kind of pursuing it, kind of introducing myself to it and just kind of praying. I wouldn't say necessarily that I'm like 100% like a diehard Christian, but I'm finding it out right now. That's what I'm doing. I'm going on my own pursuit. Like I would like to have read the Bible all the way through so I can read the words and figure out what it means to me and see what truths I find in it. Because there was somebody, it was a pastor or somebody, I forget who it was, but he was saying a lot of the issues is that with the Bible, you should be reading the text and you're reading the passages, and then with your pastor, you both should be arguing about what it means to then find the truth between the two of you. You shouldn't be listening to somebody tell you what it means, because if they're telling you what it means, you're not finding it for yourself. A lot of people just go, like, I feel like a lot of people may just go to church and they just listen and they take it, okay, sweet, that was cool, and like check a box.
Mm-hmm.
But really, you should be looking at it as a guide for life and figuring out what is the word speaking to you. And of course, I'm not a pastor. I'm not like some guy, so I'm just talking about what I think about this kind of stuff. So I believe you should probably be reading the text and understanding what it means to you, and then discussing with people, like figuring out what does this actually mean. And again, a lot of that stuff came from like Jordan Peterson, because he has these it's like a TV show almost, where he and a bunch of other like biblical intellectuals are all like breaking down the text, and they're breaking down the different meanings. And that is just so interesting to me, hearing these very highly intelligent dudes break down these very specific words. What does this line mean in regards to the whole text, in regards to the whole Bible, regards to this whole story?
That's definitely how God like wanted us to,
I feel like that too. Yeah.
Text though, like, I was reading. So what got me really more into God as my journey and I was going along was, first I got baptized, and that's when I let the Lord back into my life, and I've been building this connection with Him over the course of a few years. Last year I had the graphic novel of the Bible, and I was like, I really want to learn the story of the Bible, so I'm gonna read this because I know it can keep my attention as I learn it. And I read it, and even then it was just like talking about how that's why churches are there, so people can look at the Word and discuss the Word, and have that unity amongst each other under God's Word. And now I'm at a stage in life, I don't know if you've seen it on Facebook, but like I want to build that connection now to really know God, because I had to a few weeks ago, I really had to question where I was at, what I wanted, and I understood that the dream that I have for myself, my friends, my family, I can't shoulder myself. If I do that, it'll lead me to ruin, because I'm not perfect. I'm only a man, and every single time, as I get stronger and stronger, you only get stronger by falling a little bit. And so that's when you need God the most, to help pick you up and brush you off and then keep making that forward progress. And so I've been wanting to get more into the Bible and, really understanding exactly what it means. Right. Because that's what everybody says is, that's how God's trying to communicate with you, is through the Bible. And through
you should hear those Jordan Peterson things, because they're pretty high level, but if you like try to really pay attention, you kind of are like, oh shit, like I didn't realize.
I'm definitely going to check it out. That's cool. I've been hearing a lot more about Jordan Peterson recently, just like amongst peers. Like I've just been hearing his name dropped a bunch, and I've checked out a couple of his interviews, and I really like what he has to say. But I don't know. I feel like I've been, so focused on like trying to, get those baby steps of the podcast, that I've been just consuming podcast media, trying to like, analyze it and everything. Yeah. Definitely want to check out some more Jordan Peterson.
I love him so much because he's so focused on the truth. Like he's something that I've taken from him ever since I've read his book when I was like a kid, like in high school. He is so careful with his words. Like he is only trying to speak the truth. If he messes up, he's like, well, actually, that was wrong. Like he's totally fine admitting that he's wrong, which a lot of times you see.
You don't get that a lot at all.
No, I think you get it more now with like people like Joe Rogan and all these other influential people that are becoming bigger because they're so authentic. Mm-hmm. But there's so many people out there that'll just die on their hill when they know they're wrong. Like they're not. It's just like they're not really being honest with themselves. Yeah. And so I love that. I love his honesty with stuff. And one of his rules is like he said, He wrote a book called 12 Rules for Life, which if you haven't read that book, I definitely recommend you read that book.
Okay.
Changed my life, I think. Made me a lot more confident, and gave me some good just values to live from. But one of his rules that I like a lot was he said, always tell the truth, or at least don't lie. So if you don't lie, like he goes on this long chapter about, lying and telling the truth, but like I've always stuck with that of like, okay, let's always try to be honest. Let's always try to tell the truth. And when you're arguing with somebody and they make a good point and they prove like a fault in your argument, you're like, oh shit, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, I guess you're right on this. And then you give it up, and now you guys are coming to an understanding a little bit better.
Yeah.
So learning that from him and seeing him do it has just been very, very influential. So
okay,
yeah.
Well, shoot, I got an Audible credit I need to check
listen
out.
to that
so,
shit. He reads it too, so it's good. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. He's really well spoken. Yeah. So something that I kind of noticed whenever you were telling us about why you wanted to, open up your, what is it, like a film studio, like a whole complete film studio?
Yeah.
Yeah, whenever you were talking about that, you were really mentioning, like, that it's a lot bigger than just you.
Yes.
Like, a lot of people pursue things out of what they can really get out of it.
Yeah.
But I think it's even bigger, and, something that has more of a drive is whenever you are doing it for others as well. Like, it's not just for your success. It's not like you just want to get rich from it or anything like that. That's how you end up getting corrupt shit, like,
right.
Hollywood.
Exactly.
But you're genuinely doing this to give people a safe haven from that. Well, what kind of drives that from you? I know maybe it's something from growing up, but have you always just been somebody who's always been extremely helpful? Because I said last week in my video with Mercedes, like, you're somebody who I could hit you up for something and you're always willing to help me at some point. Like, if you're busy, you'll plan a day where it's like, okay, just come here this time, I'll help you out, like, don't even worry about it.
I don't know, I've always been kind of helpful. I felt like my dad always told me I was pretty patient because growing up, one of my little cousins lived with us for a little bit, and my brother Jacob's a phenomenal basketball player.
Mm-hmm.
And he's worked so hard at it, but he's also like very naturally talented at it. So when he's coaching up my little cousin on basketball, he wants to get better, right? We're in the backyard, he's asking Jacob to help him. Jacob's not patient enough. He's like, why are you not getting this? Like, dude, just do this. Like, what are you doing? And then, I've always been a little bit more patient where I'm like trying to teach him, because I get satisfaction and I get reward by seeing myself helping somebody else get a little bit better from what I've known. Mm-hmm. Like, if I know something and I can help somebody get there faster than I did, that's a win-win. Yeah. I was able to help them out. I got a better understanding of what I even taught, and then they were able to get something from it. And I can see the work that I put in is now building outside of myself.
Yeah, it's
always cool to see that. And growing up, my dad was always a pretty giving person too. So just having him as an example, I'm sure that influenced me a ton. So I don't know. I've always just been helpful. I don't really know where it comes from. Maybe just naturally tended to, or the way I was raised. Yeah, I do enjoy helping people out, when I can.
Yeah, shout out your dad, by the way. He dropped a subscription for the channel.
Yeah.
I saw Harvey pop up, and I was like,
nice.
This is Kade's dad. Let's go.
Yeah,
no,
he's the man.
That's a big part of, that's where I find kind of a silver lining fault within myself, is because I love helping people. It's just something I've always done, but I've been having to move and switch from the angle of helping people, being a people pleaser and doing it even when I don't want to, and truly helping them now for growth.
Yeah.
And that's what this podcast is for me, is like, it works out. Like, if it ever popped off and I was able to, just do full-time content creation, like, that's what ideal life for me. I'd be really happy doing it. But, this podcast is more for, people who have goals and dreams and that they want to do. And, maybe they just need to hear the right conversation in order to really go full-time and pursue it.
Yeah.
But something I'm really trying to learn right now is patience in that. I feel like to be that great leader, you have to have a lot of patience, one, and you have to be able to take wins not as your own, but something that kind of stood out to me more recently was, how Steve Kerr coaches and how he has his team, is that he leads everyone on his coaching staff team in order to become a head coach, so they can be better than him.
Yeah.
And potentially maybe even take his job one
Yeah.
day, and I feel like whenever you're more concerned on building leaders in that way instead of just trying to, do it build a team for your own benefit to put you at the top, then that's when you have success. Like, the Warriors they've always had success with like their assistant coaches and everything like that. I'm pretty sure a huge majority of their assistant coaches since Steve Kerr's been with the Warriors have gone on to have head coaching positions.
That's pretty dope.
And so
something with that patience is a mindset you can kind of shift yourself into when you're helping somebody. I think this is how I think about it. Now that me and you started talking about it, and I'm thinking about it. I think the way that I position myself is it's almost like a challenge of, do I have the ability to help this person out and get better? Because if, like, in my job now, I have a team of editors, and they're not as well versed in the content that they're editing. So my job is to direct them and teach them how to make it better. And so when it goes back to just helping anybody in general, it's, can I explain it well enough? Do I have enough skill and knowledge about it that I can explain it in the way that they can listen to it? So it's almost like a challenge. So it's like, can I help them out? Like, do I have enough skill to help them out? Do I have enough like leadership skills or communication skills to position the practice in the way that they can hear it the best?
Yeah.
So if it's whoever it is,
I like that.
Yeah. So it's almost like a challenge. So when you see them and you see they're clicking, you're like, fuck yeah, I'm doing it right. Like, I'm telling them the right way to do it. So like, and you start to see them progress. You're like, yes, that's how you do it. Yes, now do that again. And you're just trying to use it as like a game almost. Like, can I help them? And can I?
Yeah, it's not really taking like things out of you. It's like whenever you say you hit that wall where they're struggling to learn, and you feel like you're kind of struggling to tell them at that point. Now, instead of it just being frustration, you're like, okay, well, like, I still want to make sure they can learn it. So let me go figure out how to teach them how to do this, or what maybe I need to create like material for them. Like you created the videos for me. I can look back on those all the time and look at it, or just however it takes for them to learn it. But you're growing in that aspect of teaching yourself. So no, that's a really cool way to kind of look at it. I'm definitely going to take that one for the future. You
also got to be honest with yourself too, because somebody might, you can give them the fucking world, and they ain't gonna do it. So like, you gotta be honest.
You can only help who wants to be helped. Yeah, you can only teach who wants to learn.
Yeah, and you can see the signs. Like, if you pour your heart into somebody and they don't start fixing it or whatever the case, and then you gave them, like, you gave them all the tools to help out, and they ain't doing it. You're like, sorry, bro. Like, I tried. Like, it's on you now.
Yeah.
Like, it ain't gonna hurt me if you don't do it. I tried. Sorry, dude.
Yeah. No, for sure. There's a couple people where I've just had to be like, okay. I used to be a psych major. And that was a hard truth I had to realize very early on. It almost broke my heart. It was just like, dang, like, no matter how much you can put into somebody, no matter how much of yourself you can put into a situation to want to help a person, they can really only do it themselves. Like,
some people don't really want it. And again, it might just be a different lane. They just don't want that lane. They don't want to do whatever you're trying to teach them. So you just got to be honest. You got to be able to recognize that and then know when to move on from it.
Yeah. So for sure, like, now I just want to ask you a couple, like, can you mind telling everybody what you're kind of, currently doing as far as getting you a little bit closer to your dream? Like, I know you have Crown Cinema up and going. You have your podcast running, and I know you're doing a couple projects here and there. Like, do you mind sharing that with any of us?
Yeah. So the main focus I'm on now is I have the podcast running where it's like a movie review podcast. The idea of that is to, over time, cultivate an audience that has a loyal fan base that are fans of myself and fans of Gray, who's my co-host, who's also a part of Crown Cinema, which is the company that we're going to start that's going to make the movies, and then Scott, who's behind the scenes helping us out on it, looking up stuff, making sure that me and Gray don't sound like an idiot when we make claims, and not fact checking. We'd be saying some shit and we're like 100% wrong sometimes. So he's there to fact check us and be there as a good voice, right? So to cultivate an audience of fans of us in our podcast, so that way when we do have movies to show for, now we have people to show it to. That's the biggest issue. If you make a movie and you have nobody to show it to, it doesn't really do much, right? In the beginning, you're not making money in the beginning with movies because you need to have connections, you need to get into the industry, you need to sell it to somebody, and it's a lot of money moving, so you need to, have really good products. So in the beginning, it's a little trickier to start. So if we can get the edge and the one-up by having an audience to show movies to, now we have a head start. And plus, we don't want to work inside of Hollywood anyway. We want to have our own industry outside of Hollywood. Yeah. So if we have our own audience, now we have the power.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that, and then I'm really on learn mode. I'm really trying to just learn about myself, learn about writing and filmmaking, because I have a filmmaking background as a kid, but not professionally, right? I don't know how the business works yet. I'm very early on in this stage, so I'm in learn mode, trying to figure out the business, trying to figure out the plan of what we're going to do, and then our next current steps, like actionable steps to do now. So we're in plan mode, and also making sure that we stay in action mode still. So we're making short films right now. We're doing one right now. We're going to keep them pumping throughout the year. We'll do like commercial projects to fund our movies and make money, like commercials or, Airbnb kind of style videos.
Yeah.
And then, I have a good job right now that, I'm saving and I'm putting a lot of time into now, which is learning social media, growing a social media account, getting views, learning the trends. So I'm using that to my advantage right now to then, use what I learned there to then scale my own thing once, I go on my own.
Have you felt like the podcast has kind of helped you be able to grow that skill set and really being able to analyze like these movies?
Yes, dude. So that's the main reason why I did it, because of course we don't get that many views. We get sometimes if it's a good movie, a trending movie or whatever, we might get some views, but I never expected it to be this thing that's going to get us a ton of views right now. It's been less than a year. Joe Rogan is where he's at because he did it for 10 plus fucking years. 10 years he did this. For the first few years, it didn't work. I told you about Chris Williamson. Chris Williamson, with his Modern Wisdom podcast, he said he's made more money and had more viewers in this last year than he did for the first 5 years of the show.
Yeah.
1 year, it took off finally after, dedication and time to it. So I understand that. I'm not really hoping it blows. I'm hoping it blows up, obviously. Everybody wants it to blow up, but I'm not expecting it to early on. So the main reasons why I did it was, one, to slowly grow an audience. That's the long-term play. But also to analyze movies. That's another reason why. Because if I sit down every week and I watch a movie with pure focus, and then I have to talk about it for an hour, now I'm really starting to recognize things. And I have found myself being able to recognize more filmmaking tactics, more storytelling tricks, more reasons why the movies are so good. The movies that I like, if you watch a movie like that was badass. Okay, well, why was it badass? Let's figure out and break down and talk about why did we like it? What did we like about it? What did they do well? So that's definitely helped out. I've been able to analyze a whole lot better on movies. And also, I want to write and direct movies. That's like the ultimate dream. Like I want to build the industry, building the industry is the ultimate dream. But what I want to be doing really in my day-to-day once it's all set up is just I want to be writing and directing movies.
Yeah.
And so if I'm going to be a director, I have to be able to communicate well and communicate quickly and then get my thoughts out to the actors in the best way possible. So sitting down having to talk for an hour, your communication gets better. You're able to flow a little bit easier. Like, my current boss and your ex-boss, Ryan Stewman, he has just filmed himself talking so much, and he's talked so much in front of a camera. You just click record, and that dude can just fucking spit it.
Yeah.
Like, one take, it's done.
Yeah,
right?
I've seen that a couple of times whenever y'all ask me to help with some videos. You're just like, he's on it, and it kind of takes me a minute or two to really, get into the flow and everything like that.
So it's being able to analyze movies and study them, help my communication, and then slowly grow an audience is the main reasons why I've started it. And I can see I've definitely been able to communicate better on the podcast while I talk about movies and themes. I'm still growing. Listening back to it helps too a lot. Having to try to hear myself and seeing, that I didn't say that very clearly here, whatever the case, right?
So I catch myself doing that too. I'll take notes. I'll watch back and just take notes. Okay, make sure you're doing this there. One I had noticed for Mercedes is make sure that it's still pretty linear. There's a couple times where we had, we were jumping between the past and the present, and it kind of threw me off a little bit. So I was like, okay, let's try to keep it a little bit linear and bringing it in. And then a big thing, my first couple episodes was the back and forth a little bit, just because, I like to ask the question and make sure that I'm giving full time to hear your answer and everything. But there's also that conversation where it's sure. You don't want it to just be one person talking the whole time.
Yeah,
other person talking
because you're the host. You're the one that always puts it on, so people are gonna want to keep hearing your perspective on the answers, right?
Yeah, no. So just to pick your brain a little bit, what are you kind of looking for whenever you're looking at these movies? Whenever you're reviewing them and analyzing them, just kind of just things that kind of stick out to you whenever you're okay, that's cool, or is it a way it's shot or run or?
I've realized recently, the past few recent years, that I'm very reflective. Mm-hmm. And I think about the reasons why people do things. I find myself thinking about the character's motivation and that kind of thing. Because, of course, I want to write the movie, so I need to understand the characters as people. Mm-hmm. You have to to write a good movie, you have to write, they say honestly, you have to write real people. You know, you can't just like make some shit because it fits your message. You know, actually figure out who would this person actually be and write it. So I find myself looking at the characters and their motivations and what they're doing and like what's the theme of the movie. Like that's the biggest thing. As a writer of movies, you have to be able to have a message about your movie. It's not every movie has one. It doesn't have to be like some insanely like positive message or whatever the case, but it needs a theme. It needs some type of philosophy that it's trying to give across. So like an example would be if it's like we just watched Casino, right? That's about greed and that's about you know, working in this corrupted world and the money and the luxury. That's the theme. So now you're having to see like how are these characters belief systems operating inside of this world, and like how does that affect like what happens to them?
Okay.
And how does this character affect this character, right? So it's like all these little different plays with how it works. You know, it's a philosophy.
And that's what I love about movies is just like if you can really look at it from like that kind of angle, I feel like understanding each character, the motivations behind that character, and how every action, you know, affects the story.
Right.
I feel like it just makes movies that much interesting and that much
like the best movies you see, when you watch it and you really try to study like what is happening, like what are the characters doing, what are their motivations, you start to realize, oh, that connects here. And as you learn about psychology and how humans actually operate, you'll see trends. You're like, oh, he did that because of this. Like, that's just what we do.
Yeah.
Oh, that's, you know, you can see, oh, he got corrupt because of this. Oh, he didn't have this in his life, so that happened. Yeah. You can start to see these real people, right? The characters they feel like real people because they're acting as if real people would. Like you see, like, you know, if a character goes through some type of traumatic event, you can see why they might have this flaw in themselves because of this traumatic event caused this flaw to happen, right? So, and, you know, that's what I'm looking for most of the time in these movies is like the characters. And then obviously the shots, like what is the filmmaker doing? What's the director doing? How is it edited? How is it paced? But really I kind of go into it with a blank mind. Yeah. I don't have any expectations. I just watch it and then I start to pick up things. So if I see the character doing something, I'm like, okay, why is he doing that? Oh, okay. And then it might build to a next point.
I see. Movie too. Yeah. Just like, I try not to look at reviews or anything like that. Like maybe if it's a movie I haven't really heard of before, I'll check out just like the audience rating to see, you know, if it's...
So you don't waste your fucking 2 hours of your day.
Yeah, you know, like, oh, is this a movie I need to watch? Like, I should watch at home or should I go pay money for it? Like, but yeah, no, I just like going into it empty-minded and kind of seeing how it plays out. One that came out last year that I always rave about because I feel like they did the character and story, like, the characters so well in it was Oppenheimer. Like, I like... Every person who was on that screen affected the story. I feel like you know, and you see how like all these different like everybody clowns it. Oh, it's just a 3-hour movie of people talking, but like every single one of those conversations has significance in Oppenheimer's decisions and what he's doing because you can tell this is a man who doesn't necessarily want to do this. Nobody wants to do this, but it's if they don't do it, somebody else is going to, and then you can see. After they drop the first bomb, he's like, okay, this is done. And then he finds out they drop another one. And that's when he's like, well, no. Yeah. And then you go to the president. He's talking to the president. And you see how the president's and his conversation goes. And then the second half of the movie, the whole like lawsuit and everything like that. It's just like, that's the chef's kiss. Like, I love that.
That's why it's so cool because it shows this complex situation that happened in the world, and it's given you what's Oppenheimer's perspective on it because he doesn't think he's an evil man, right? Some people might think he is because he created a, you know, weapon of mass destruction that was responsible for killing millions of people, millions of innocent lives, right? So people might consider him evil, but he for sure didn't think he was evil. Even like Hitler didn't think he was evil. Yeah. Hitler thought he was doing the right thing. So making a movie about this kind of complex situation and seeing how he did it, how he was able to kind of justify it to himself. You know, he's doing it for the science. And also because they show you, you know, if he doesn't make it, if we don't beat him to it, it's not good to have if you're going to be in the world and there's going to be a weapon that could just take out your entire country, you better be the first one to have it just to protect yourself, right? You don't want it to be in the wrong hands. If you believe yourself to be the most moral country in the world, you should probably have the most powerful weapons to make sure it doesn't get in the wrong person's hands. Yeah. So, you know, it's a great movie showing that complexity of like, okay, like how are they dealing with this? What happens? What's the truth of like how Oppenheimer felt? You know, it's cool. It was a fucking great movie.
And dude, like the thing that gave me like chills was that ending credit scene where it shows like the map of all the rockets just like coming out, and it's just like, oh, you know, it's like, oh my god, like what the fuck are we gonna do? You know, like this is a time bomb waiting to happen.
Yeah, dude.
And it's just like, I feel like they did that, and it put this sense of fear in me where it's like, once one goes, they're all going. And so I feel like that's what everybody else thinks too. Is just like
that's what's also like, if everybody has them, then like they all know what's gonna happen. So they kind of, that's like the safety net.
Yeah,
knowing that if everybody knows, like that's why people always talk about like talking about like gun rights and shit. People that you never hear like about a shooting in a gun convention because everybody's got one.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If everybody's got one, that means you aren't the most powerful man in the room. So you know that somebody's going to fight back with you with the exact same power that you might fight with. So if everybody's got that power, you know, you can kind of assume that everybody, hopefully, all the world leaders are hopefully saying like, yeah, let's not use these because we know what could possibly happen if we start launching these hoes on these
That's
other
why
countries.
all the political leaders, like, who are teaming up, like, you know, who were good with Russia, whenever Putin started talking about launching nukes, they were like, hey, man, like, all right, let's calm down. But what I had in my head, I feel like you're somebody who's so level-headed, and I feel like, you know, the way you look at things, it's very hard to catch you in a stressful moment. So how do you necessarily deal with that stress? Because I don't know, like, maybe it's just because the way I look at things is very much like, whenever I'm stressed about something, it's because I'm looking at very immediate, like, for immediate solutions to a more long-term goal. And so I'll stress myself out from that. So whenever you catch yourself in stressful moments, how do you deal with like that frustration and stress really?
I do get stressed. I used to not get stressed much because I really wasn't pursuing anything. Like growing up, I was never stressed. I was so chill, so laid back. Nothing bothered me. I was just like going with the flow.
Right.
I always had the mind like it doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
Like I still am kind of a little bit where it's like stuff doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Like think about like the struggle you're going through this week ain't gonna fucking matter in a month.
Yeah.
It probably won't even matter next week.
Carson gave a really good quote where it's like, if it's not gonna matter in 5 years, like it shouldn't matter in 5 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, if it's not gonna bother you way down the line like that.
But most of the time, the stress comes from not knowing what you're gonna do. It's indecision. I think it's like if something like let's just say you're about to get fired from your job, or you get fired from your job, or something like that, where it's stressful. Like okay, what are my next steps? You're stressed because you're not sure what you're gonna do. Mm-hmm. If you had a plan, there's no need to be stressed.
Yeah.
You know what you're gonna do. You know your next step. So
1,000,000%.
In those times of stress, I find myself, I go to my journal, I write out what I'm feeling, why I'm stressed, and then I'm like, okay, so what am I gonna do about it?
Mm-hmm.
And then usually after you're done, you're like, okay, I feel better.
How long have you been journaling?
I don't journal like every day. I've always had a journal. Probably early high school, I've always had a journal to write ideas down. You know, like movie ideas and shit like that. But I've been now kind of sometimes in times of stress or times of needing to think stuff out, I'll write out my thoughts. Yeah. It helps a little bit. Clear your mind, brain dump. You feel like you almost talk to somebody. You're talking to yourself, really. Because sometimes when you think to yourself, you get stuck in like thought loops. You know, you can't fully think out with yourself until you put it on the paper, and you're like, okay, now it's going. Okay, now let's expand on this idea. Why am I feeling this way? And you can get that thought finished and out of your brain.
That's the thing. It's trapped up here. Like it's just gonna keep bouncing off the walls. For me, whenever I journal, I kind of view it as like that's like a really open and honest conversation with me and God. Like I kind of just write it in the paper as if I'm having that one-on-one talk with Him, and you know, slowly as you know, you write it out. That's how that plan starts developing. That's what I noticed. Like whenever I was in sales, I have a new number I need to hit, or we'd have a time crunch where we need to sell this many things, and I'd be freaking out at first because I'm like, shit, like how the hell am I gonna do this? How am I gonna sell $5,000 worth of stuff when no one wants to buy this right now? Everyone I've hit up said no. How am I gonna do it? Mm-hmm. And then after about an hour or two of stressing out, I'm like, okay, all I got to do is this, and then if I do this, and this many times, I should get this, and then I try to always think of things whenever I'm planning on like the low end, like
what do you mean?
Like high high input, low output. Like if I do everything like say for money, like I'm looking at jobs right now. I just got an offer for a part-time job. I'm looking for something to supplement me because the investment firm I'm trying to work at won't have a spot until May. That's whenever they're opening up the new team in Plano, and so I need to find something until May if I get this job. And so I got an offer for a part-time thing, and he said I asked him what to pay. He said from 28 to 31. And so the way I think of it is like, okay, well, if I'm doing this many hours in a week, I try to think of things from the perspective of 28 instead of 31. Because if I get 28, okay, that's bare minimum. That's what I'm getting done. That's the least amount of what I should expect from putting out this much work.
Mm-hmm.
If I get more out of it, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's perfect. I'm happy with the extra stuff. But I try to prepare myself for that low end just so that way the plan is more secure. Like if I'm thinking on the high end and I end up getting the low end, that kind of throws the plan out of whack. I was planning for more and getting less. If that makes any, if I was able to explain that right.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how my brain operates whenever I'm thinking of planning things out, and what gets me out of that stress.
Just trying to get that. What's that bare minimum I gotta hit?
Exactly. What's that bare minimum? And then, so if I'm calling 15 people, I can expect 5 to want to set meetings, and I can expect 2 to close, and that's like on the low end of things. And so, having that plan is huge. I really want to ask you, because we just had Mercedes on last week, and, I'm sure everybody who's in the relationship who've heard that it was great. She's talking so much about how you've been able, being in the relationship with you has really been able to let her look at life a lot differently and let her pursue her things, knowing that she has such a strong backing with you supporting her. Mm-hmm. So how does that on the inverse from your perspective, being able to have, such a, strong and free-minded woman on your side who's willing that, her dream, it was, being able to support you and being able to help you grow as well as, growing on her and doing whatever she wants. So just want to hear your perspective on like how that is, how that helps you, and how you operate in that.
Having a chick by your side that will just support you helps significantly.
Yeah.
Because on the days where you're stressed, like I'm talking about being stressed, there's some days you just need like a woman to go like lay your head on, just like, can you rub my head? Like, can I just hug you? Yeah. Like, can I just go lay in bed with you and just snuggle real quick? Because, sometimes you're just fucking like tapped out and you're like, dude, I'm so stressed out. I just need somebody to support me. Mm-hmm. And then, having somebody that during these stressful times that you're creating for yourself, right? Because you're the one responsible for your stress, because I'm the one that's doing the work and chasing the things and putting the workload on myself. Mm-hmm. And so having somebody that is there to support you and not add to the stress is huge. Mm-hmm. It would suck if me and her were always fighting. Like, that would be miserable. Like, I'm stressed doing a lot of shit, and then I got to also deal with, this kind of fighting or this whatever, and having her understand our dream together, right? Because we're getting married, so what we're going to achieve is going to be together. And so having her be totally on board with it and being there to support it, she understands. Like, I'm very thankful for her because I put in long hours. Like, most weekdays I'm working till like 9 p.m.
Yeah, and then you travel too.
Yeah, luckily travel's been low, but those travel times will definitely make it rough too. So, having her understand that this is not forever. And I'm communicative with her. I'm telling her like, hey, like, I'm always making sure, like, if I got to work late, I'm like, hey, this is gonna be a busy week. I got to get this stuff done. So, these days I'm not gonna be able to hang out with you, but I'll make up for it on this day.
Okay.
So structuring and planning it, because of course she wants me to hang out with her, and I want to hang out with her. Like, we're friends. Like, it's not like I'm just gonna ignore her for a week. Like, we both have needs of needing each other and wanting that friendship and building that relationship with each other. So, we got to make up for that time still. So, like, the goal is every week, like, I'm trying to grind till I have my Sunday. My Sunday's always just with her, just chilling out at the house, at the apartment. Is always with her. And then we have, like, a date night once a week, right? So, it's having her on your side and keeping the relationship steady is so helpful, because, it'd be brutal being there by myself. I would just work myself to death, probably. Just every day, just working until I just burnt out or gave up or whatever the case, right? So having somebody there to support you is huge in your endeavor. I've heard there's some business coach or somebody talking about he doesn't take on clients unless unless they're married or they have
Really?
like a steady relationship.
Okay.
Because what happens is either the guys are going to chase it, or they might find somebody. And when they find somebody, they're going to shift their focus not from the business but to the relationship. And so if you have it steady already, and you go build something together, you're more likely to be together and still focus on the dream and manage that relationship. So, having that's huge.
I feel like you guys speak a lot in hours. Like, even before y'all got, engaged and everything and been planning that future together, she was talking about how whenever y'all first moved out of SIG and she was pursuing hair, you were very focused and steady on making sure that you can support and provide while she's doing that and making sure you're bringing income to support you guys. So y'all can do that because it was a part of so how long do you feel like it's kind of been that mentality with you two, over the course of your relationship? And with that, how has that kind of helped y'all get to the point of now y'all are, being able to work together on projects? She's helping you out with your podcast and everything. And, hopefully y'all are able to do even more once y'all move to Austin and starting that creative endeavor.
Yeah. What was the question? Sorry.
My bad. How long have y'all been in this hour mentality?
Right. Okay. So something I've had to work on it, the hour mentality, because I've always my whole life have been very independent, super independent. Like I've always kind of done my own thing, kind of prioritize what I wanted. A little selfish probably, if I'm being honest. Not like overbearingly selfish, I don't believe, but definitely more focused on myself.
Yeah.
And so when we started dating, that was a trouble because obviously I want to do stuff together with her, and when I would, my issue was I would speak in me. I wouldn't speak in us. When I'm speaking in me, I'm really thinking about us two together, right? But I'm not saying it.
You're not like vocalizing that.
Yeah, so it doesn't seem like it. It seems like all you're doing is focusing on yourself, which is true. I'm like, damn, I kind of am. Fuck. And so, because I don't want to be like that. Obviously, I don't want to be selfish. I don't want to be somebody that only cares about themselves. That's not who I want to be in life. And so I don't want to be perceived like that or talk like that. So, speaking with her and having her be on board, I've very much put the work in to pursue that hour mentality of like, because she's right. It is me and her. It's always going to be me and her. And that's just what marriage is. Marriage is two people becoming one. And so now that it's becoming more serious, obviously we're like months away from the wedding at the time of recording this. It's very much becoming an hour thing where it's legitimately hours. Like from here on out, it's going to be hour.
Yeah.
And so just getting a serious relationship, it kind of just sparks that hour mentality where you kind of lose your independent self because you realize I'm not independent anymore. Now I'm dependent with this person and she's dependent on me. We're together. So just building a strong relationship has just kind of brought on the hour mentality naturally. And then I've also worked on it because I want to have that hour mentality with her.
Yeah. So it's just that same being able to kind of come together in a sense of you learned early on that this was a girl who you just simply didn't want it to be, a me mentality. That's not something you want to give out to the world, but definitely not with Mercedes.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Just kind of shift focus a little bit. Something I want to ask you because it's my hometown. Why Austin? As you're pursuing this, I think it's really cool that y'all are about to, set up base in Austin. I just want to know what about it, because I know comedians are starting to make a thing over there now. It's always been a music city, and honestly, like with everything going on as far as it becoming a more techie place, which I absolutely hate, it's good to see that creatives are trying to go there and spark a new renaissance in Austin and bring it back. So,
well, I'm a very proud Texan. I don't ever want to leave Texas. I like to have some houses outside of Texas, obviously like vacation houses, but I want to be a resident in Texas. All right, back to it.
Yep, take two. Let's get it.
Talk about Austin being a creative city. So, like you said, Austin's got the nice food. It's got live music. It's got comedy now. It's moving there. So it's kind of like essentially like the LA of Texas, right?
Yeah.
And I just see it becoming this big. Everybody's moving there from California because it's the most California-esque city in Texas, right? So, that's just where the creative people are. That's where the creative people live. And, keep Austin weird. There's a lot of weird people there, but weird people are generally creative people. So that's just where the artists navigate to. So I just would love to be in that city. And also because Austin in the hill country is the most beautiful part of Texas.
Dude.
That is like what makes Texas the most pretty state.
Yeah.
Is the fucking hill country, dude. The lakes. Lake Travis. Are you kidding me? That's the fucking most insane lake ever.
Yeah, dude,
Crystal clear water.
Crazy out
Dude,
there.
Yeah. And in the hill country, obviously, it's so beautiful. So just the scenic views, the beauty of the city, the people, the culture, the food, the artists there. It just seems like the right place to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I really like that y'all are moving to Austin. I was telling Mercedes, like, it's cool whenever I go visit home now, I can just be like, yeah, okay, Mercedes, I want to go to, like, Peter Pan or something like that.
Yeah.
But let me think, man. I feel like I've gotten so many, like, good bits of information out of you. Just like, I don't even know if this has been going on for, like, feels like about 45 minutes. I just want to know how, I guess from a heart perspective, like a heartfelt perspective, how much does this really mean to you? Because, like, I feel like you have it's such a huge ambition. It's very clearly focused and well driven. But, like, why do you want it that badly to where you're willing to go through just about anything to get it?
It really comes from my dad, because I grew up with a good life.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't struggle growing up. I had my parents did well. So I don't have that like rags to riches story. So, but I still have a strong work ethic. And you think about kids that grew up well, they usually don't have a good work ethic. They're usually lazy because they got everything in life, it's whatever. So I think about myself. I'm like, well, how did I, like, because I worry about that with my kids, right? Because when I have kids, I'm going to be successful, period. And so I don't want my kids to not have a good work ethic because I've given them everything.
Yeah.
My dad, of course, when I grew up, my dad, he made me earn things. Like, he didn't buy everything for me. If I wanted a new pair of shoes, he's like, all right, I'll split it with you. Or, okay, what are you going to do to go buy it? Or I'd save up to go buy it. So, we weren't just handed everything, even though he could have easily gotten me whatever I wanted. We still had to work and earn things. So that probably helped too growing up. But my dad's story, growing up from really nothing, supporting his family when he's the youngest of them, and he was paying the bills for his family as they grew up with like living with my grandma. And so he struggled, he grinded, worked his ass off to give me the life that I have now. So it almost feels disrespectful to not take what I've been giving and make the most out of it. Like, if I've been given a good foundation from my dad, like my dad's built a strong foundation, why would I not use that foundation to fucking build something huge?
Yeah.
Like, he worked hard for something, so why would I not build upon that? Like, if we're humans trying to evolve, every generation should build off what their parents have done. So if my dad has sacrificed, am I really going to disrespect the shit he's done just to be like an average dude or a loser or not work hard and just kind of get whatever and be, oh, it's all right. No, like, it's now my duty to now build upon what he's done. The sacrifices he's made, it's time for me to sacrifice for my family. So that's kind of where it comes from. It's just like really just trying to make him proud, I'm proud of my name because of him, because he's such a great dude, like truly like the best man I've ever, truly the best man in my life. Because as I think about growing up and, kind of reflecting on like wanting to, be a dad because he was such a good dad, there's not one memory I have where he wasn't he wasn't a good example. Like, truly looking back, there wasn't one time that I could think of where like I'm like, oh, my dad messed up there, or oh, he probably shouldn't have done that, or oh, he talked mean to my mom this way. Like, literally, there's nothing. Yeah. So him having that great example, just being that good person, he built me to be that good person as well and want to achieve things in life. And just having him as my example and wanting to make him proud is really my main driver in all reality.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that because, man, I was on an interview the other day, and I'm interviewing for this investment firm with nothing besides my sales experience. I don't have any type of.
Have you heard of phone sites?
People, what is phone sites? Yeah. But people are asking me these questions, and knowing I have no type of financial background, no financial education. Like, I want to get into investment firms. We're doing integrative studies at UNT. They don't know what that is. Yeah. But I'm blowing them away on these interviews. And the last one I had, he was just like, he told me, like, honestly, you've completely, like, I'm definitely sending you up the ladder. but where are you getting this work ethic from? And it took me a while because I was just like, it kind of just clicked for me. But I was able to really attribute it to my dad because I don't know. It's kind of that same thing. I've always seen how hard my dad works for other people. Like, I feel like he has, he had a lot of shortcomings growing up. I won't say has because he's worked on a lot of them, but he had a lot of shortcomings growing up where growing up, it got to a point where I didn't know if he was the guy I could look at as my father figure. I was looking for, somebody to help fill that role. And over the course of, the past 5, 6 years, I've seen how hard he's worked to change himself as that person to where he can be someone where everyone can now look at him. Like everyone, all my friends have always looked at my dad as a father figure, as being their coach and everything like that. But I've always only been able to look at him as a coach for the longest time because he was my coach. He always treated me harder than a lot of the kids. I just wasn't picking up on the lessons he was trying to teach me because I was spoiled. My mom spoiled the shit out of me, gave me everything I wanted whenever I wanted. So the lessons he was trying to drive home to me just never really stuck.
Right. Because it's a lot sweeter to get the shit you want. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You're like, I ain't gonna fucking listen to you. I'm going to my mom.
Exactly. And so, but in college, anytime I've struggled or anything like that, I've just, found myself, as I'm growing into a man, needing that, that leadership from him. And he's always been able to come out on top with what I needed to hear. With phone sites, I wanted to quit like 2 months in. And he was just like, well, don't quit. Like, get fired. If you're going to get fired, but don't quit. Like, and I ended up being really good at my job and finding, that I love doing sales. And he's always been a coach. I've always known him, like, man, if he just had his degree, like his college degree, he can outcoach any of these high school coaches. And over my time in school, he's gotten back in school working towards his degree. He's a full-time teacher now, and he's coaching his basketball team at his school now. Taking those steps, and so it's I feel like now I have that ambitious father figure who I can look up to and be like, okay, like I see everything he's currently doing, and I've seen how much he had to give up from what he's currently doing to raise me and my sister. As him and my mom were, going through it in their own marriage. Like one thing he's always done is been consistent. He's always wanted to be a father. He's always wanted to be there for me and my sister. He's always made sure to provide and make sure that we're good, even if, he's not. And he's always made sure that we can look at him and be able to call him dad and not just Ernest. And so I think that's huge moving forward, because now it's just like, I just want to be able to return the favor, make him proud, and be able to have, be able to have my family look at, take everything that I've learned on from the experiences that he couldn't have, and be able to teach my family how to, get after it. Because I'm going to be a successful guy, and I want my kids to be able to pursue whatever they want to and be able to have the tools necessary to actually be good at it, and it not just be something where they started and, feel like they can't be great at something, you know?
Yeah.
I think having whenever you're being an ambitious, ambitious person, having that figure in life that you can closely like relate to, like, even by blood, it doesn't, I guess it doesn't really have to be by blood. For the longest for me, it was Brendan. That's my best friend. Anytime he's doing good, we're cheering each other on. We keep each other updated with how we're trying to better our lives. And I feel like there's that, whenever I hear him doing something, I'm like, okay, well, I want to make sure we're on the same level. I want to make sure we're equal. So what is there anything in my life that I can look at and pick apart? But just being able to have those kind of connections and people around you to bring up with you also kind of keeps you focused and wanting to get after it.
100%. Yeah. Like I think it was Patrick Bet David talked about, like, there's 3 things that you need, like 3 things that successful people have. It's like, I forget the other 2, but it's like essentially the first 2 are like struggling. Like, you have to, like, you came from nothing and you want to change that. You don't want to continue this lifestyle because you were dirt broke your whole life, right? So you grind your ass off to not have that. But the third one is that not a lot of people talk about, is like growing up with love, right? And support. It's like my parents were very supportive of me. No matter what I did, they were always supportive. Like my first time making a short film, my dad let me go into their like Papa's restaurants. That's where he works. let us go into like the Pappas restaurant's like office space at night after hours to film a short film inside of it because it had like an office scene, right? So he let us, he's there and stayed there for hours, sitting there for fucking hours.
After he was already there for hours.
Yeah,
and
letting
probably
me.
just wants to go home.
Yeah, 100%. He don't want to be there, but I'm sure he enjoyed watching his son pursue this thing and make it happen. He's always supportive and always willing to help me out. So growing up, with love and support definitely helps because when you're doing things and chasing things, having people talk shit on it or having people try to hold you back verbally, that doesn't help you at all. That makes you unconfident in your abilities. It makes you unconfident in your dreams and what you try to aspire to do. My parents, both of them, have never ever said anything about, are you sure you want to do that? Hell, I don't think that's a good idea. It's like, sure, if you go ahead and try it, go do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I've never had any really pushback from them. They've always been my biggest supporters. So that helps a ton, having somebody to support you in your journey. Again, going back even with Mercedes, having her support me on the journey, that's just super important to have because it keeps your confidence up. And whenever people start to hate on you, which is just bound to happen, people, you are achieving some type of success, or at least you're making strides when you start to get hate.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody hates on losers.
Yeah.
It's just honest.
Yeah, no, facts.
So, when you start to get those hateful comments or you start to get that kind of pushback or people kind of talking shit about it, it doesn't really faze you because you don't really give a shit about what they say because the people that you actually respect are supporting you.
Mm-hmm.
I respect Mercedes. I respect my parents. So when they support me in my endeavors, that's all I care about. I don't give a fuck about somebody that I don't know's opinion. Why does that affect me?
Yeah.
I don't care. Like everybody, there's always hate. So it doesn't matter.
I think it's really cool that you had said that your parents were always just like, whenever you wanted to do something, they were just like, okay, well, go ahead and try it. That's actually what Mercedes said about you last episode. How, you've been able to help her so much in her endeavors is because whenever she just wants to do something, you're just like, you should totally do it. Like, I think that'd be cool.
Yep.
Like, she said you've never really, tried to talk her out of anything or ever tried to, really put too much of your input into it until after the fact, where it's like, even whenever she brought up maybe she was painting something and she thought it didn't really look good and you just kind of looked at it and was just like, well, no, like, I bet if you keep working on it, it'll come out looking better.
Yeah.
And that's just, honestly, that's just what people need is I feel like we live in an age now where it's so easy to spew hate in your own personal opinion, like your own negative personal opinion. You go into hell, it's a joke whenever people see a video on TikTok and you'll go into the comments and then people will be like, had to rush to the comments to see, like, and you just see, like, some of the most vile things like being said in comments about these people, because it takes a lot to be able to put something out there. And a lot to be able to, like, go through and see thousands of comments of just, hate and ridicule.
You also got to remind yourself that the most, like, on the shorts I put out from the podcast clips or whatever, the ones that have the most hate comments have the most likes.
True. I didn't think of that inverse.
So if for every one hate comment, like, how many times, like, think about this. How many times have you personally commented something positive on a random post?
Very few in between.
Yeah, rarely. Like, maybe once.
Yeah.
Maybe, because something was like, damn, that was badass. I'll comment because you're
I
feeling
don't
good that day and you want to do it.
Yeah, I don't put anything out there negative, but it's also very rare where I'll say, like, I'm just like, oh, man, this is all so cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
so for every hate comment, there's probably 10 people, more probably, that liked it and had a good positive thought about it, but just didn't comment because you don't comment. People don't comment about positive shit, right? Yeah. So you always got to remember that. Think about yourself. How many times do I actually put a positive comment on people's stuff that I don't know? Rarely. But it's way easier to hate on it because you expect to be funny. You're hoping people will jump on the train with you. It's way easier to hate than it is to love on social media, it seems like. So, you always just got to remember when you get those hate comments, you got to know there's way more people that liked it.
Yeah, man. I wonder why that is. I wonder, like, what's the psychological reason behind?
Because if you're probably because if you're happy, you're like, if you're happy, you see the people are posting it, you're like, oh, that was nice. You kind of just move on with your day because you're living in like a better mindset. But if you're like negative, you want to like spread that shit for some reason. Like you want to like take it out on somebody, or you want to be negative, or whatever it is. So just people tend to just want to hate more for some reason.
Man, that's something that's always just boggled my mind because, like, I mean, and I can't really say that I see it like crazy amounts in person, but like, for example, it would be like me hanging out with Derek or Tay, right? Like, so cooking each other out. Like,
Yeah.
man, like it seems like you go up there and it's either me and Derek on Tay or Tay and Derek on me or me and Tay on
Yeah.
like it never stops. And I mean, that's of course your just relationship with your boys. Like, you know, you're just having fun, but like that's so much easier, and you hear that so much more over, you know, hey, bro, I think that's
It's also
really cool
funnier.
with
It's
you.
also funnier.
Yeah.
It's funnier to hate too. Like most comedies just shitting on stuff, you know.
That's true. That's true.
It's just kind of funnier. And with your buddies, like it's just way funnier to make fun of them.
I try to. That's actually one of my things I'm trying to do this year, though, is make sure I'm at least, you know, putting that out there, putting more positive words and energy out there as far as just because, like you said, it's always nice whenever you have people supporting you, and especially if it's people you respect. So that's something I'm trying to, you know, more align myself with, is being somebody that people can respect, and then also being able to push out words of positivity with that, you know, with that status of having somebody's respect. I want them to know that I'm also somebody who can support them, and they know that they can come to me if they need words of support or, you know, wisdom or anything like that.
Yep, trying to be a positive force in the world.
Yeah, it's hard, man. Whenever it's just so much negativity out there, but you know, just keep on pushing. It's God's battle, right? But yeah, man. I mean, I guess I have one more question for you. This is actually a viewer question. First time I ever did this. I was talking to Kieran's dad yesterday, and I told her about how I was gonna have you on, and I think it'd be a really cool episode. And he wanted to hear your thoughts on the, you know, the recent writers and actors strike. And he said something about AI being a main focus on that because of how good it is now, to where it can completely impersonate somebody's voice. You can literally pull up. I saw a video of Will Smith eating like spaghetti the other day, and I'm like, it was AI, but it looks like just like him. So, what are your kind of thoughts on? I want to hear your thoughts on AI in media now, on that level in film and TV. Do you think it's something that can harm the industry or better it? And as well as later on, your thoughts on just like the whole, you know, strike and how that kind of coincides with what your dream is wanting to be able to provide a safe haven for creative artists like that.
So like, I'll just go over the strike really quick. I think that I don't know much about it, to be honest. I don't really study the union kind of stuff. But the thing that I don't like about it is that it's like, again, personal freedom is huge for me. I want people to be able to live the life that they want to live. And so obviously these companies that are, you know, paying the union that's paying these writers, it's good. You know, you want them to pay everybody fairly. That's the biggest issue, is that these unions are kind of fuck over the writers, and they kind of screw everybody over. They try to keep the most money that they can. They're greedy.
Really?
Well, that's why they strike, because they weren't getting paid enough, because whenever the writers would write these movies or they write these shows, the company would sell it to Netflix, and then they wouldn't get a kickback.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so like that was a big issue, because usually like you get sold on like, you know, cable TV ad revenue. You get sold on like the movie tickets. Like that's how the writers make a lot of money, is by all that they get signed in the contract, that ticket sales. When it's streaming, you don't really get, like, they don't really track that information or give you that information, I don't think. Again, I'm kind of halfway speaking out of my ass here, but I do know it's about pay. And so these writers weren't getting paid for, if they made a badass Netflix show that fucking blew up, they only got paid on the original deal.
Oh, okay.
So like, you wrote a show for whatever, you know, X million dollars, the writers got $50,000 that year, 80K that year, whatever it is, to write that show in the writer's room. When that show blew up, Netflix sent the company money, but the union, in the original agreement, it wasn't like worked
it was
out.
just like, oh, like even though we got this huge kick, like you said, the kickback from Netflix for producing such a great show, the writers weren't getting any of that cut.
Yeah,
okay.
And I think again, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that's what was happening. And then also, they're also worried about AI. Like, we need some stuff in our contracts that'll protect us against AI, because we don't want you just to start making shows with AI that'll, you know, now we're out of a job, you know. But honestly, I'm not really worried about AI, to be honest. Like, it's inevitable. So trying to stop it's stupid, because it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So you got to figure out, what am I going to do with it? So now you got to figure out how to use it as a tool, right? Because it's going to be a tool. It's going to probably help you in your craft. You just have to figure out the new way of doing it. Like, it's kind of like this whole thing. Like, people were so against so against sound in movies. Like, no, we're silent film actors. Like, we're not. We act in the purest way. We don't need our audio or voice in it, right? People were fighting back against it. It's like, dude, that's just what's going to happen. It's way better. Look at it. It's way better. So AI will probably make movies be able to be produced better with like AI visual effects, AI editing, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But there's probably going to be some AI stories that are decent, but we're going to find out.
Mm-hmm.
Is there like a sort of like soul given into the like human stories?
Yeah.
Like the greatest movies of all time to make you feel something, because sometimes shit makes you feel something and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's not technically right. So will AI be able to do that? Are they going to be able to because AI is a computer program. It can't feel.
Yeah. If it starts doing that, we're in some trouble.
We're fucked. If it starts feeling, we're fucked.
Yeah.
But so AI can't feel. So will it make compelling enough stories? Like, I think it was maybe Shane Gillis or somebody was talking about ChatGPT writing out jokes. And he said, the jokes were good, but they're not that funny.
Yeah.
Like, this should be a really funny joke, but because somebody didn't tell it, it's not funny.
So just lacking that, having AI completely lack that human side.
Yeah, because if Shane Gillis said it, or the AI, thing said it, it's the same words. Technically, it's all the same, but for some reason, it's funny when Shane Gillis says it. It's not funny when he does. So what is that?
Mm-hmm.
What's that missing component that AI doesn't have? I feel like it's a feeling. It's the soul of it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll find out what happens really if it's able to tell compelling stories, or if there's something about humanity that just can't be duplicated in a computer program.
Yeah.
Which I believe is probably the case.
I think so too. I think we're gonna get that. I think it's like on the up and up because it's so new. We're finding out so many capabilities that it can do. But at the end of the day, like that compassion and empathy is just something it can never have. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's a robot. Like, nobody's gonna look at this screen and be like, oh, it can do that. And maybe it'll produce something cool, but like at least the edits of somebody working through it are gonna have to.
Yeah, and again, right now it's not. I don't think it's creating new thoughts.
Just regurgitating old information.
Yeah, it's like taking everything it knows and then just spitting out something new from what it has already, which I guess is kind of what we do as humans anyway, right? But sometimes we get some ideas that we don't really know where that came from or whatever the case. So I'm not sure AI's able to do that yet, is to create new ideas. So, I don't think it'll take a while for it to kind of take over, but I'm not worried about it. I think there's always going to be a longing for human, because if there's AI stuff, people are going to want to seek the human stories, because that might be the commodity where it's like, ooh, this is a human story. Somebody wrote this one. It might be higher. It might be like the higher tiered.
Yeah,
entertainment.
It's like we're getting like content pushed out, but then it's like, oh, Kade Harvey directed this, like,
right.
Oh shit,
I
gotta go watch something.
Yeah,
like
and
that,
people want to support artists too. They want to see like, what did this person make, right? Like, because like, okay, like with the new Rick and Morty season, whenever Justin Roiland wasn't a part of it, he didn't voice it.
Yeah.
I didn't really like the season that much because his voice wasn't in the show.
Yeah.
I felt like it was lacking the main factor that made the show great.
Yeah.
Like it sounded the same, really wasn't that different. It's the same kind of stories, but because Justin Roiland wasn't in it, it felt lesser to me. It almost felt like a fake season because it's like, does this really matter? Like the creator wasn't a part of it. So even though it was a human doing it, but the original guy that made it wasn't making it. So it didn't feel as like...
So like the piece of his soul that he's pumped into this show is now gone.
Yeah, it's missing from it. And so like his vision with it and his like his decisions that he makes for these characters or for the storylines weren't there at all because he didn't help write it. He didn't help voice it, right? So it's kind of like, it doesn't really feel the same.
Yeah.
And you miss that part from that specific artist. And you want that specific artist taste on the craft. That's why you go to it.
That's like the biggest reason on why I go to movies and like why the theater is so important to me is because like it allows you to feel. Like it puts you in situations you never thought you'd be able to be in, and it allows you to feel what they're feeling in that situation.
That's why these Marvel movies aren't getting, like, I haven't seen the new Marvel movies in a while because artists aren't making them. They're just fucking cookie cutter scripts. Like, I think at every movie in the 10-minute mark, this happens.
Yeah.
It's like a formula. It's a formula to making a good movie or making a decent movie. And so when you take out that creator's decision, like the good movies are like Thor Ragnarok, whenever Taika Waititi, what's his name?
Yeah. Taika Waititi.
Whenever he makes it, it's silly. It's his own style. That was a good one. That was a good movie. So you see the good Marvel movies are the ones where it's like it's unique because the artist put their spin on it and it's nice. James Gunn on the Guardians, those are always great because he puts his little spin on it. It's like his style of movie. So, I think people are always going to long for their artist take on things. And AI, yes, it can probably make some decent TV shows. It can make some decent movies, but it's going to be very cookie cutter Disney, current Disney productions, which are just kind of ass.
I'm glad you brought up Marvel because now I have another question. I want to hear your thoughts on that actually, because my thing about Marvel is I feel like the Marvel formula, whenever you, for at least my opinion, wasn't really solidified until probably Guardians 2 was whenever they realized, okay, like we can start making more funnier things work in these movies. Then Thor Ragnarok came out and like that was awesome, best, like easily one of the best Marvel movies ever. But then they got to this point where it's like that's all they were trying to do, and like that's like they're getting more directors to kind of feed into that more than like like James Gunn. They wouldn't make another Guardians movie without James Gunn. Like none of the actors wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And then they got James Gunn back on it, and you can see why. It's because he's able to put his twist on it, and it's like that's his staple. It's like, yeah, it's funny, but it's funny because you can like these are real interactions. Like whenever in Guardians 3, whenever he's trying to get Nebula in the car,
yeah,
he's like open the fucking like that's something like that's real.
Yeah.
It's not just something that's put into a script and let's cue laugh track here.
Right. It's not just like cookie cutter jokes that are just kind of like silly that just getting the cheap laughs.
Do you think they're ever gonna figure it out, or do you think we've kind of got to this point where now they're just? I mean, with DC's new extended universe coming out with James Gunn at the helm, he's looking like he's gonna craft some pretty cool stories with it. Do you think the reign of Marvel is over? We've just gotten to this point, or do you think they can come back from it?
I mean, everything dies eventually,
right?
So I'd say it's probably over. We'll see if they fix it. They're with their very much woke kind of just pandering to their political audience. It's very evident in a lot of these movies, so people don't like that because again, that's not honest work. You're just literally filling in characters. Like you're like literally like I think it was Elon Musk put like somebody leaked the Disney guidelines for movies and like they need to have this specific race, like these specific races in a movie. You need this specific sexuality. It's like you're not writing stories anymore. You're just kind of checking boxes. And it's like, if you want to have more diverse stuff, just write a diverse movie.
Yeah.
Don't force something because it's not honest. It's not that good. It just feels forced. You're like, oh, that's, I don't like that because it's not honest writing. You're just like forcing upon these things in this movie.
Yeah.
And so we'll see, though. I think it's kind of starting to change. People, with comedy coming back, people are telling real jokes again that are offensive and a little edgy. Like Shane Gillis hosting SNL is huge.
Yeah.
Shane Gillis he got fired from SNL because he was so edgy.
Yeah.
He had I think he had gay jokes on his Twitter or something like that.
I haven't heard about that. I didn't even know he was on SNL.
Yeah, he hosted it last night. So
okay,
we're filming Sunday, so this Saturday is whenever he hosted it. He had a monologue, funny, telling the jokes he always tells. The crowd's not laughing that hard because they're not sure if they can laugh at his jokes, right? So it's just funny. I think it's kind of turning around because if they see that Shane Gillis, because I mean every comedian was fucking saying Shane Gillis is on SNL. Tune in tonight. It's probably going to be the highest rated SNL because Shane Gillis was on it because he's doing real comedy. He's not doing this pandering political comedy.
Man, I really hope we can get back to, just putting out real stuff, like watching old movies and just like the way they, like old Adam Sandler movies will always be funny to me because they didn't give a fuck.
No, that's what's funny. It's the, oh my God, they said that? It's like, holy shit. And they're saying it obviously for a joke. It's just funny. It's just, I think it's turning around because if Shane Gillis's episode is the highest rated one, then and they make the most money on it because it has the highest ratings, they're going to realize, oh, people actually do want the funny shit. They don't want just the force-fed politically correct jokes. Like that shit ain't funny.
It's crazy how much I feel like social media has played as such a huge part, just because like everyone has an opinion on there, and so everyone, like you look at, I think Twitter probably had like the biggest impact on it. I think like around 2015, 2014 was whenever you really felt that shift, as far as what being canceled. That's when
Right.
cancel culture
Yeah.
really started. And now everyone's just so afraid to say anything because it's going to go onto social media, be misconstrued.
Yeah.
And then it's just, cancel this person for saying. And no matter what, you're always going to have a faction that's trying to do it.
Yeah.
Like no matter what you say.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like we can't get anything good as long as that's such a huge thing. Like there will be this few remnants, a few sparkle, like Anyone But You. That movie that recently came out with Sydney Sweeney and I forget his name. Maybe Chris Pines? I don't think it was him. Some other guy. It reminded me of an old Adam Sandler rom-com, and I was blown away by it because I was just going because I was like, I want to go watch a movie. I know Kieran doesn't like action movies. We'll go watch this. I never heard anything about it. It's like, oh my god, this is fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
like, haven't seen anything like that since. So I hope we are going back towards.
I think we are. People are the very loud minority is starting to lose to the quiet majority.
Mm-hmm.
Most because literally you talk to anybody, everybody thinks the same pretty much. They all think all the stuff with the media is stupid. It's like nobody thinks like this.
Yeah.
In reality, nobody actually thinks like this. So I do think it's turning around because people are kind of stopped. I mean, Disney movie. I think somebody told me this. I don't know if it's a fact, but I don't think Disney has made a profitable movie in multiple years.
Yeah.
Like for multiple years, a movie that Disney has released was not profitable.
I wonder if them getting such a big hand on like multiple media, like this whole monopoly they're building in media is like kind of attributed to that. Because now like they have hands pretty much everywhere you look where you're watching something on a screen. And so they have the most political power by the sense.
They do. I mean, they're gigantic. Like even though they have been failing, they're kind of too big to fail. Because Disney World is always going to make money.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever other companies they have will always make money. They have such a wide spread that, yeah, they can fail on their movie production, but they're so gigantic it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Hopefully people make it hurt enough, or they don't make enough money for a long enough time that it hurts enough that they're like, okay, we got to change. People don't want this. People want some good shit. They don't want just the cookie cutter, politically correct, forcefully diverse, just to check a box movies.
Mm-hmm.
They want real movies. If you're gonna make a diverse movie, like I said, just write a diverse movie. Write a movie about whatever character you want to. Don't just like cookie cutter. Check. Oh nope, this guy needs to be Mexican. Put him in there. Oh nope, too many white people. Change it. It's just like, how about we just make movies that are good and with the right people and with the best actors.
Yeah.
No matter what color, whoever they are in their personal life, doesn't matter. Are they good? Okay, sweet, put them in.
Yeah. Yeah, well, hopefully we're heading that way, and can't wait to see you leading the charge there with your dream. I mean, Crown Cinema is going to be huge.
Let's do it.
Y'all please give my boy Kade a follow on Crown Cinema. He drops some dope podcasts, and he's always willing to speak his mind truthfully and honestly. Thank you for being on the podcast today, Kade. It's definitely one of my favorite conversations. I love being able to just do this and be able to pick everybody's mind. And
podcasts are fun, dude.
Yeah, like just like casual conversation. I love talking to people, so just being able to do something where I'm talking to them all the time. I usually close these things out with a question. I try to stay away from politics, but it's just something to kind of, show a little bit more of yourself out there. My question for you today is, who is your favorite actor, and what is your favorite project that they're in?
Favorite actors probably, I think Leonardo DiCaprio is the best actor.
Okay.
But my favorite is Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling?
I think he's hilarious. I think he's funny. I love every single movie he's in. I just love his way of acting and his kind of humor. And my favorite role of him is in The Nice Guys.
The Nice Guys is so goated, man.
And I also like him in The Gray Man. I like him as like an action star.
Yeah.
He's pretty badass as an action dude. But yeah, Gosling, I just think he's fucking hilarious.
Gosling has really grown on me. The Nice Guys is huge. I remember you posted it on whenever you were doing your movie post on Facebook, and I was like, I want to check this out. Let me watch it. And dude, like, the scene where he finds the dead body in the bushes gets me every fucking time. And the Gray Man, actually, the first time I ever hit up Kieran, it was the night right after Sparks just flew, and I was fucking nervous because I wanted to hang out with her some more, and I didn't know how to do it without it coming off as like too like, oh, we just started really like talking, and so the next day I was like, oh well, I'll invite her over to watch a movie, and if she says yes, cool. If not, like, okay, it's not a big deal. Like I'll just wait a couple more days and see if she wants to grab lunch or something. And so I hit her up. I was like, hey, like, do you want to watch a movie? She's like, what movie? I was like, oh man, there's this really cool movie. I'm just like scrolling Netflix trying to find it, and it was The Gray Man. I was like, yeah, it's called The Gray Man. I heard it's pretty good. So she came over, we watched The Gray Man. I never thought I'd want to see Ryan Gosling in that hero role more, as well as seeing Chris Evans. I love Chris Evans as a bad guy.
He plays a fucking asshole.
I love him.
Knives Out. He's an asshole in Knives Out.
Yeah, he just has the personality for it. He has range, dude. But yeah, thank you for being on the show, man. I'm glad we were able to share your thoughts, and I really think you gave a lot of good information for people to take from this episode. So
Sweet.
Appreciate you, brother.
All right, dude.